Coming up on Focal Point, the tree is lit. Right now, Lansing is ringing in the holidays with their annual celebration. We bring it to you live. The House wraps up 2 weeks of House impeachment hearings.
It was terrible. It's not the way I wanted my career to end.
And Democrats on the campaign trail debated.
We have a constitutional responsibility and we need to meet it.
An industry that was booming over a decade ago is nearly extinct. But we take you to one in particular still thriving.
We have things like the Michigan Lottery, but we don't have things like Michigan sports betting. I'll tell you how that could change.
Focal Point starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Focal Point. I'm Tony Black.
And I'm Melissa Burr. Thanksgiving is less than a week away, and according to Andy Williams, it's almost the most wonderful time of the year.
Yes, bring out those lights and hot cocoa if you haven't already. To help bring in the holidays, Focal Point's Katie Brecky is live in downtown Lansing. It's Lansing's 35th annual kickoff to the holidays called Silver Bells in the City.
Katie, how's the atmosphere down there?
Yeah, guys, it is cold out here. You can see my breath. It may be warm in the studio, but it's cold out here. We just wrapped up an event, Silver Bells in the City here in downtown Lansing. There was, of course, a parade, fireworks, and if you can see behind me, this wonderful tree filled with LED lights. There's lots of people still taking pictures with the tree tonight. And of course, while everybody was in the Christmas spirit today at the event, the spirit started a little bit earlier today. 'Tis the season for carols,
the kids, they come down in a choir,
for charity, and for the holidays.
I'm really excited to have thousands and thousands of people, tens of thousands of people here in downtown Lansing.
The 35th annual Silver Bells in the City is a time-honored tradition in downtown Lansing. A toy drive that will last all season kicked the event off. From donating toys, bright twinkling Christmas lights, and Christmas carols, Lansing is getting ready for the holidays. Isn't that right, Santa?
Oh, that is correct. We are ready to get it going tonight.
Oh, look how perfect this is.
Tiffany Dickerson is a firefighter in Lansing. All year, she looks forward to hanging lights on the truck.
Oh yeah, we always have a good time getting together and decorating the engine.
It's a fire truck turned electric light parade float.
This is the first time I'm going to be driving this time, so this is the first time I'm driving it.
And her whole crew has fun decorating.
It's not parade without a fire truck, right? So.
And getting in the holiday spirit.
Merry Christmas, everybody, okay?
Do I look like Santa Claus?
Now, back out here live. If you missed the fireworks earlier, don't worry. We're going to play them back a little later in the show. But right now, Alyssa, Tony, I need to go find some hot chocolate. I'm getting a little cold. We're live here in downtown Lansing. I'm Katie Brecky, Focal Point News.
Of course, it has got to be cold out there.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. If you missed the festivities tonight, you can still see the tree lit every night through the holidays.
One thing that probably isn't going to light up tonight is this massive sign. Passersby might have noticed this marathon sign hanging from its 10-story base this morning. The sign, about the size of 3 cars, might have blown over in the wind, according to a marathon worker. The Meridian Township Police were called, but not too many people seem to be noticing. Drivers continue to park directly underneath it for most of the day. McDonald's customers also must drive under the sign to get through the drive-thru.
A Lansing staple is set to close early next year. The Frandor Sears announced a few weeks ago it's closing. The department store has been leasing that location since 1954. The store is holding a going out of sale business sale. Pat Gillespie owns the business. The building, he says there's still 10 years left on the contract. He's not sure what the corporation will do with the space.
We're really not sure if they're going to stay that long, look to sublease the building. So we're having a lot of communication with them, and they haven't figured that out yet.
The location is expected to close February 2020.
A dozen current and former Trump administration officials testified this week and last in President Trump's impeachment inquiry. The House has yet to hear from the president's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, National Security Advisor John Bolton, or White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney. President Trump says the Democrats look like fools this week. He called into Fox News and talked for nearly an hour. Meanwhile, Democrats are preparing to draft articles of impeachment. A vote could come by the end of this year. Democrats have been building a case that Trump leveraged U.S. military aid to Ukraine in exchange for investigation into former Vice President Joe Biden and his son Hunter.
No, we're not going to wait till the courts decide. that might be information that's available to the Senate in terms of how far we go and when we go. But we can't wait for that because, again, it's a technique. It's obstruction of justice, obstruction of Congress.
After a report is completed, the Intelligence Committee will send it to the Judiciary Committee and release it to the public. The Judiciary Committee will then decide if there is enough evidence to impeach.
From Capitol Hill to the campaign trail, impeachment is dominating politics this week. 10 Democratic candidates for president met in Atlanta on Wednesday for their 5th debate and had plenty to say about this week's hearings.
Trump doesn't want me to be the nominee.
We have to establish the principle, no one is above the law.
Constitutional process of impeachment should be beyond politics.
There are clearly two different set of rules for two different groups of people in America. The powerful people who with their arrogance think they can get away with this, and then everybody else.
But this is also a patriotism check, a value check, a decency check.
You can deal with
Candidates
Trump's
also discussed health care, foreign policy, and race. The next debate will be on December 19th. So far, Joe Biden, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Pete Buttigieg, Kamala Harris, and Amy Klobuchar have qualified for the next debate by having at least 200,000 individual donors and polling at 4% in 4 national polls, or 6% in early primary states. The other presidential hopefuls have until December 12th to secure a spot on the stage. Primary season kicks off in Iowa on February 3rd. Michigan's primary is March 10th.
New groups sometimes struggle to find their place in society. The transgender community might fall into that category. As Focal Point Sam Britton tells us, the group gathered this week at the Capitol for 20 years of remembrance.
This is our chance to educate and create awareness, to normalize gender divergent identities.
A rally at the state capitol. A typical Wednesday morning in downtown Lansing.
I wanted to open up to him so badly and tell him who I truly was, what I had been hiding for the 20 years that he knew me.
A day of remembrance for those who are no longer with us.
To acknowledge those trans people who have lost their lives due to violence.
Roz Keith of Stand With Trans teamed up with Free Mom Hugs to put on this event.
Some will be accepting and loving, others will not.
Like internet trolls, she says to steer clear of them.
Do not engage with these folks.
After her female-born child came out as transgender, Keith started Stand With Trans.
And so we knew that there were so many out there like us who needed community, they needed connection, they needed people to talk to be able to just share their concerns and their fears and their worries for their kids.
Some might have lost family members and friends because they were transgender, but today was both a pick-me-up and a protest for those who might be struggling.
Really, all you have to do is just call someone by the right name. It's not hard.
Coming to the state capitol on a weekday morning shows that Michigan student Bree Leakin is invested in this community.
I was really just trying to raise awareness on trans issues on campus and locally.
The fight with this crowd.
But I do know if we could change this world to lead with love instead of fear, we would all be in a far greater place.
Doesn't seem to be filled with hate. In Lansing, I'm Sam Britton. Focal Point News.
The transgender community says they continue to fight for rights across the country. They did have a recent victory in Michigan. Transgender people who have transitioned to a different gender used to need a passport, birth certificate, or court order to change their driver's license. Now they only need to fill out a form and pay $9.
To change one's identity marker on their license is a huge deal. A friend of mine actually went through the process before it just got changed. It took him 3 months and $800 to go through the process and get everything he needed to do to change.
When it comes to auto insurance rates, Michigan is the most expensive state, but a new law could dramatically reduce that. All drivers in the state currently pay $220 to the Michigan Catastrophic Claims Fund. The law proposed by the Michigan Catastrophic Claims Association would reduce it by $120 for people with unlimited medical coverage. Those who choose lesser coverage could avoid the fee altogether. The 55% fee cut comes from changes made to the state's no-fault insurance law in June of this year.
Hopefully, if the costs are lower, then obviously it makes it a more affordable premium for everyone, you know, in any location in Michigan.
The law will offer different coverage options for the people to choose from. It should go into effect in July of next year and last until June 2021.
We all love our phones. They are with us constantly. But there's at least one place we can't bring it in. Focal Point's Luke Saccone reports on a new Michigan proposal.
We're all attached to our phones, inside and outside.
One place phones aren't allowed? The courtroom. But attorneys like Michael Nichols are the exception.
Nobody can bring a cell phone in. But if you're an attorney and you can show proof that you're an attorney, they let you bring your cell phone in.
As it stands right now, local judges can decide whether the public can bring their phones into the courtroom.
Right now, it's kind of a box of chocolates. You don't know what you're going to get until you show up to the courthouse, and you might see a sign that says no cell phones.
But all of this could be changing.
We need our phones, whether it's like documents or emergencies or whatever the case may be. I should be able to have my phone in a courtroom respectfully.
If the proposal were to pass, there would still be a few restrictions. A couple being still no recordings or photography in the courtrooms.
In Arizona, I went to court all the time. My dad's an attorney, so I've been in the courtrooms a lot, and we're allowed to have our phones in there. So, and I really don't think it made any significant difference to the proceedings at all.
Local courts worry they could lose money if phones aren't allowed. People would take pictures of documents instead of paying for them.
I'll take a picture of my client's bond orders once I go through it with that person, and then I'll say, you keep this, I've got a copy.
But the court system is always changing.
It's just another way to try to improve the best imperfect system in the history of the world.
In East Lansing, I'm Luke Saccone, Focal Point News.
The Michigan Supreme Court held a public meeting on Wednesday and could decide on the proposal at any time. Coming up, an MSU college takes the top spot in international ranking, but a Michigan State survey shows alarming statistics about what students go through inside and outside of the classroom.
And an East Lansing hero is getting a big head, but we don't mean ego.
So how else would you mean it, Tony?
As literal as possible. Let's find out what I mean and more after the break.
You can go into any sports restaurant or bar here in Michigan and usually see the lottery game Keno on TV.
And the game brings in revenue for the state government. What if more games are legalized? Would it bring more players to the table?
So right here's my lineup. This is my team right here.
Fantasy sports can be very competitive.
And this is a 10-team league. I'm currently in 8th place, which is not good.
Even if there's no money involved.
If there is more than typically $20, then it's pretty competitive.
For MSU senior Alex McCrae, he's played fantasy sports since high school.
The leagues I'm a part of consist of football and baseball leagues.
While he doesn't usually bet, he may legally be allowed to soon. New bills are cycling through the Michigan House to legalize sports betting. It includes online betting and potentially fantasy sports.
Yeah, I'd be for it, yeah. I think it would generate more revenue for the state.
The Michigan Lottery brings in a small percentage of the state's annual revenue. While sports betting would definitely benefit the players, the state maybe not so much.
It's not going to generate huge amounts of revenue for government.
Ron Fisher is an economics professor at Michigan State. He teaches a class about the business of sports.
Sports betting might take away from other forms of gambling, and particularly state lotteries.
And he's done studies about lotteries.
State lotteries are the largest source of gambling revenue for government.
But he says that's actually relatively small. Out of the $24 billion 2019 revenue, lottery only contributed about 4%.
The state lottery generates a lot more revenue for state government than sports betting ever would.
While the revenue may not be large, Fisher says it's about more than just the money.
It's another form of entertainment. It's a reasonable business.
And if the bills pass, he says it's not for him.
No.
On the other side of the table, it may be for people like McCrae.
Yeah, probably.
The only reason possible in Michigan is because in June of 2018, the Supreme Court threw out a 1992 act that outlawed sports betting nationwide, excluding a few states like Nevada. The bill passed in the House. Now it's waiting the governor's signature.
It's almost Thanksgiving, and as we saw live from downtown Lansing a few minutes ago, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas.
That's so good.
A little something. Over in Detroit, a familiar face will be coming to America's Thanksgiving parade, and we're not talking Santa.
Here's a hint. He's probably more popular than Santa at MSU. Also in campus news, Larry Nassar was fired 3 years ago, but a new survey shows that sexual assault is still a problem on Michigan State. Luke Saccone is live in the Spartan newsroom with those stories. Luke?
That's right, Alyssa and Tony. Sexual assault climate surveys are typical for big universities, but Michigan State's latest report aims to be different and more inclusive. Not only does it include faculty and staff, but it also pinpoints why problems are still happening more than 3 years after the Larry Nassar scandal. The American Association for Universities polled 33 schools this year for its campus climate survey on sexual assault and sexual misconduct. MSU decided it needed to do something more. Statistically, 27% of female undergraduates say they've been sexually assaulted since enrolling at the school, and only 20% of them actually reported it to the university. MSU psychology professor Rebecca Campbell wants to use these results to lobby for more mental health counselors, faster Title IX investigations, and more victim advocates to help those who do report. Marvel, DC, and Archie Comics have made a huge leap from the page to the TV screen, but at the MSU library, they cherish the roots of our favorite superheroes' origins in a big way.
There's power in the pages of comic books.
Graphic novels are, I would say they're a hobby.
Or graphic novels.
They make me feel happy, sad, sometimes miserable.
And it's not just the punches the superheroes throw.
They really bring me to feel great about myself.
Rachel Deering would know.
My favorite comic book mostly is anything Batman related.
As president of the MSU Graphic Novels Club, she has a huge display of them at her disposal right here on campus. Over 300,000 North American produced comics and over 50,000 internationally produced comics can be found right here among the stacks at the MSU library, making it the largest and most comprehensive collection in the world. Julian Chambers, an English professor who studies comic books, sees the importance of holding such a collection right here at MSU.
Comics are an archive of the American experience. It's one of these sort of basic ideas I use when I think about them. So it's a great way to think about evolution of the United States over time by looking at different comics and how they approach different issues.
A peek into the collection is only available by special request, but its impact is even spreading to local shops.
People hear about it and they can visit it at the library and then maybe come look at some stuff here.
It may just be a hobby for her, but Rachel hopes one day fellow MSU students and friends get to be remembered in the collection forever.
Being involved with the greats and seeing everything and having your comic book in there, that's amazing.
In East Lansing, Alyssa Burr, Focal Point News.
Leslie M. Van Veen McRoberts, head of special collections at the MSU library, says the collection is so large and popular, the library can't keep up. As they continue to get new comic books, library officials are trying to find more creative ways to integrate all the comic books into the collection. Can you identify this face? I'll give you a hint. He's loved here at MSU, but maybe not in Wolverine territory. How about now? If you guessed Tom Izzo, you're right. This is what his big head will look like at America's Thanksgiving parade in Detroit on Thursday. He's the newest addition. The head is made by the Big Head Corps, which is a program within the parade company. The head will walk in the Thanksgiving parade as the only new addition this year and the second Michigan State-based head after Magic Johnson. The company said the Iron Mountain native is such a positive influence to the state and Detroit. That's all I have on campus. I'm Luke Saccone.
Spartan football fans are getting a little restless with a 5-game losing streak.
And Cassius Winston has a big week after tragedy hits his family. Focal Point's Brandon Rothenberg joins us live at the sports desk for a preview of this week's sports.
Yeah, Tony and Alyssa, football coach Mark D'Antonio tells the media what his plans are for next year. And an emotional speech by Cassius Winston tops our sports headlines this week. We'll have those stories and more after the break. Welcome back. I'm Brandon Rothenberg with your weekly dose of Michigan State sports. We start with men's basketball. Following a close win against Seton Hall last Thursday, MSU took on Charleston Southern. The Spartans defeated the Buccaneers 94-46, doing so without the assistance of sophomore guard Aaron Henry, who took the chance to rest his injured ankles. In the second half, Cassius Winston gets the Spartans in a solid offensive groove. An assist from Winston to Xavier Tillman, and Tillman sinks the ball, widening the gap, making the score 46-20. It's one of the craziest shots of the night. With just 8 minutes left in the second half, yet another assist from Winston, and Gabe Brown throws down a thunderous dunk, putting the Spartans up 48-22. The Spartans end up winning big, 94-46. It's been a tough week with the loss of Winston's brother, and at the end of the game, he addressed the crowd to thank the fans for their support. Griffin Stroin brings us to the emotional scene at the Breslin.
It's not often that a basketball story starts at the end of a game. But Cassius Winston had something to say at the end of the Charleston Southern game Monday night.
I lost a piece of my heart.
Tragically, 2 weeks ago, Zachary Winston was hit by a train in Albion and changed the family's life forever.
A lot of tears, a lot of emotion, and just a lot of laughs. You know, it's all over the place, but we in it together.
Since then, Winston has talked about it, but feels most comfortable on the court.
Getting your mind away from it, it's tough. It hits you, at random times, but if you can have that, that 2-hour distraction for you, that's always been good for us.
But after the game, Winston had to stand on center court and address the fans.
Just all the support, all the love, all the flowers. I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart.
He hasn't missed a game. It's been his therapy.
Just playing the game that I love, you know what I'm saying? That's kind of been my safe haven.
But now it's about trying to get things back to normal.
I'm trying to adjust to this new life that we have, just knowing that it's going to be tough times.
But he says his Spartan family will help him get through these tough times.
And I really appreciate you guys, so thank you.
In East Lansing, I'm Griffin Stroyan, Focal Point News.
The Spartans are traveling right now to Maui for the Maui Invitational. They take on the Hokies of Virginia Tech on Monday. Coming off of a colossal win over Notre Dame, the women's basketball team is ready to continue their winning streak. The Spartans took on in-state foe Oakland at the Breslin Center. Shea Colley was still out and Coco Gaines was out with an ankle injury. End of the first quarter here, and when Taryn McCutcheon is behind the arc, you know it's money. She puts 3 more on the board for Michigan State. Later, the Golden Grizzlies trying to gain some momentum, but it's Tyre Park swatting it away. She had a couple big blocks in this one for the green and white. Michigan State was starting to pull away when Kayla Bellas gets the layup and the foul. That's Coco Gaines' replacement coming up with a big play there. Spartans go on to win 76-56. There were some struggles, and after the game, Susie Merchant said she is missing her upperclassmen.
They're a work in progress because they're freshmen. We can't rely on them. That's where you need your upperclassmen. And tonight, not having, some of our key kids, today I felt we needed Shea and we needed Coco out there just from an experience standpoint.
The Spartans are now 4-0. They play Hartford on Sunday before going to the Bahamas to compete in the Junkanoo Jam. We take you from the Breslin Center all the way to the Big House in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Michigan State, the 113th meeting in this historic rivalry. 2 teams that have been heading in very different directions. The Spartans losing their last 4 games, outscored by 86 points. And on the other hand, Michigan has been playing some solid football since Penn State, coming into this game on a 2-game win streak. Michigan State headed into the stadium hot and started the game strong. Lewerke with the center pass to David Cruz, putting MSU up with a 7-0 lead early. Michigan tied it up quickly in the second quarter and went on a roll from there. Nick Eubanks with the catch from quarterback Shea Patterson, putting Michigan up 14-7. They pushed to widen their lead in the third quarter, and MSU never recovered. Michigan takes the Paul Bunyan Trophy for the second year in a row, 44-10 the final. And for the Spartan fans, their frustration with this team has grown. Joe Freihofer has fan reactions and what Coach D'Antonio thinks about his coaching future.
The fall of 2019 came with a clean slate, a new horizon. Mark D'Antonio began his 13th year at the helm. The bar was set high. Expectations were high for MSU football in their 2019 campaign, to say the least, and they got off to a hot 2-0 start here at home in the friendly confines of Spartan Stadium. But since then, the largest loss ever to the University of Michigan under head coach Mark D'Antonio. And that game certainly got some Spartan fans talking, which now brings us to here, the Rock on MSU's campus, where today the message reads, "Long live Z Smoothie," the late brother Zachary of Cassius Winston, who passed away just days ago. But on Saturday, after that game, the message here on this rock was anything but positive. The yellow print reads loud and clear. For the students on campus, they're not too thrilled.
So the season has not been good. We're not happy with it.
They've been all right.
I think we need to purge the entire coaching staff.
Back a couple years ago, it was great.
Now we're 4-6.
I'm really surprised that Lewerke's still in it.
Defense went from good to bad.
But D'Antonio made a statement Tuesday.
So I don't think I'm finished.
He plans to continue coaching next season, and in light of their tough times, something hit him as he went to bed Monday night.
I got something off the shelf and I put it on. I looked at it. I said, oh, there's a Rose Bowl insignia on this thing.
He sees a brighter future for the program with him at the helm, and perhaps another Rose Bowl.
That can happen again, and that can happen under my watch.
In East Lansing, Joe Freihofer, Focal Point News.
The Spartans are staying on the road for tomorrow's noon kickoff against Rutgers. That's what's happening in sports this week. I'm Brandon Rothenberg.
Disney Plus launched earlier this month, bringing animated classics to our small screens. Another Disney movie came out today to the big screen.
Eileen Gould has a sneak peek of that movie and more in entertainment. So Eileen, have you been able to let it go?
Well, Tony, I was at the theater last night for this big release. I don't know about you, but I've been counting down the days. 6 years ago, Elsa and Anna joined the court of Disney princesses, and Frozen became the highest grossing animated film of all time. It won the Oscar for Best Animated Film and Best Original Song with Let It Go, and now Frozen 2 is finally here with high expectations as they journey into the past and into the unknown. And if you're not into all things cold, pull on a cardigan and go for a stroll for a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Into the unknown. Into the unknown. Into the unknown.
Mr. Rogers, I'm here to interview you.
It is so nice to meet you.
This piece will be for an issue about heroes. Do you consider yourself a hero?
We are trying to give the world positive ways of dealing with their feelings.
You love broken people, like me.
Sometimes we have to ask for help, and that's okay.
With some early releases last night, Frozen 2 made $8.5 million, and by the end of the weekend, it's expected to hit over $100 million at the box office, topping its predecessor's $93 million, making it the highest opening ever for Walt Disney Animation. That's all for entertainment. Tony, Alyssa, back to you.
So, Tony, are you going to head to the movies after the show? Are you a Frozen fan?
I don't know. I'll probably wait to stream it.
Okay. Well, speaking of that, it's been over a decade since we, or at least my parents, would drive down to the video store to rent movies. But as Focal Point's Brandon Rothenberg tells us, if you still want to do it that way, you can.
You can come in here and you can browse, and it's going to be there.
Melody Rothier has worked in a video store long before Netflix, Amazon, and Disney+.
Yeah, I've worked at 5 different stores over 11 years.
What once was a staple in every community, Family Video in Lansing is one of the few places left in the area to rent a movie.
I don't know if it's a nostalgia thing, but it is nicer to just come in and browse and pick something out.
Family Video gets new movies like The Lion King and Good Boys a month before streaming services. And it's often cheaper, too.
If you are coming in for a new release, you're paying $2.99, whereas if you're getting it on demand, you're probably paying $4.99 to $5.99.
Remember the disappointment of a scratched disc?
We do offer disc cleanings.
Well, those days are a thing of the past.
It works so well, and we've brought so many discs back from the brink.
It's not just about movies, though. Video game rentals are popular, too.
A lot of our game renters are big gamers, and they want to preview a game before they spend the money to buy it.
You can't get personal service online.
I have a lot of customers who are like, it's just not the same. I want to come in and like look around and pick my stuff out and talk to you about movies.
But mostly, it's about families coming in for the experience.
Everybody comes in, they all come in together, they get a couple of movies, they pick them out together, they get some popcorn and some candy, and they're gonna go home and have a family movie night.
In Lansing.
Thank you for calling Family Video. We now carry CBD products.
Brandon Rothenberg, Focal Point News.
New release movies are $2.99 for a one-day rental, while other movies in the store range from $1 to $2 for a 5-day rental. Tony, I'd love to have that feeling back of walking into the store and looking for a movie.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I used to go all the time with my dad and my sisters. Nothing like the good old days.
Well,
that's all we have for this week's edition of Focal Point. I'm Tony Black.
And I'm Alyssa Burr. We leave you where we started tonight in downtown Lansing in front of the Capitol with the Electric Light Parade. Have a great weekend.